Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be exploring a story. It's about human nature and respect and, the surprising value that we all hold.
Mm.
So picture this. Okay. There's a businessman and a boatman,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in this tiny boat. Now, it sounds simple, right?
Yeah.
But trust me, this story is going to take you on a journey.
It's really interesting how the story kind of sets up these two contrasting worlds right from the beginning. You have this businessman who's totally obsessed with efficiency. Like he's got to get to this village to set up a factory. Time is money for him.
Yeah. And he could just take the road, right?
Right. But it would take him, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 hours. And that's not exactly ideal for a guy who measures success in minutes and profits. So he takes the boatman up on his offer, which is like a 15-minute ride across the river.
It sounds like a good idea until you realize that this businessman has kind of brought his whole attitude with him. You know what I mean? He starts asking the boatman all these questions, and they're like, condescending. It's kind of cringy, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like, do you even know what a factory is? You can practically hear the judgment in his voice. It's like he thinks his world is the only one that matters.
Exactly. And then it gets worse. He asks if the boatman has ever read a newspaper or if he's even been to the city. Like, come on. You get the feeling this businessman's ego is about to take a hit.
Yeah, but the boatman's response is really striking. He's so honest and straightforward. He doesn't try to pretend he knows things he doesn't. He just says, nope, no factories, no newspapers, no city life for me. But there's no shame in his voice at all, just this quiet dignity.
Yeah, and that's when things get really interesting. Remember, this isn't just about two different guys you know.
Yeah.
It's about how life can just throw you a curveball when you least expect it. All of a sudden, the river's current gets really strong, the boat hits a rock, and it starts to sink.
Wow, talk about a power shift. It's like the universe is saying, all right, Mr. Big Shot businessman, let's see how all your fancy knowledge helps you now.
It's so ironic. All that stuff, he was mocking the boatman for not knowing. It's totally useless now that they're in danger. Suddenly, the only thing that matters is the boatman's expertise, his understanding of the river, his ability to deal with the current cirrus.
It's a perfect example of what we call situational expertise. The boatman may not have a lot of book smarts, but he's got knowledge that's absolutely crucial in this moment. It really makes you think about how we define expertise in our own lives.
For sure. You can just imagine how panicked the businessman must be. One minute he's making fun of the boatman, the next he's begging for his help. He even apologizes for being rude.
Yeah, that's a powerful moment. He finally realizes that the guy he was looking down on is the only one who can save him.
So what does the boatman do? Does he rub it in the businessman's face?
No, not at all. He doesn't even hesitate. He just calmly tells the businessman to hold on tight and swims them both to safety. It's amazing how graceful he is under pressure. Really makes you think, how often do we judge people based on superficial stuff? We might think someone's uneducated or unskilled, but not even realize how much experience they have or how much they bring to the table.
Yeah, I know I've done that before. It's so easy to get stuck in your own little world and think that your way of life and your skills are the only ones that matter. This story really challenges that way of thinking.
Definitely. It reminds us that things can change in a second. And when that happens, those hidden skills that we might have overlooked, they often become the most important.
That's true. Think about all the people in your life who have those kinds of skills, like mechanics, nurses, teachers. We depend on them every day.
It's like our modern society with all its focus on technology and innovation, it still relies on those basic essential skills. But do we ever really appreciate the people who have them?
I don't think so. It's dangerous to create this hierarchy of value, where some types of knowledge and skills are seen as better than others. This story shows us that worth isn't tied to a narrow definition of success.
Exactly. The boatman may not have had a fancy job or a ton of money, but he had a skill that literally saved a life. And he didn't use that skill to brag or anything. He used it to help someone in need.
It makes you wonder what the world would be like if we all treated each other with that kind of humility and understanding. Like, what if we celebrated a wider range of skills and acknowledged how interconnected we all are?
I think there's also a really powerful message here about forgiveness. The boatman could have held a grudge against the businessman, even made fun of him when the tables turned. But he didn't. He chose compassion instead. That's true strength of character.
Yeah, as the story is saying, we all mess up. We all have moments where we're arrogant or blind to something. But what really matters is how we react to those moments. Do we cling to our pride or choose humility and compassion?
And let's face it, we've all met someone like that businessman. Someone who maybe put us down or made us feel small. This story gives us a new way of seeing the value in people who are different from us.
Yeah, it encourages us to broaden our horizons, to look beyond the surface and see how people contribute to the world in different ways. It also makes you think about what skills you might take for granted and what knowledge you have that could help someone else. Because you never know when you might be the one someone needs to rely on.
You know, it's interesting to think about how this story kind of connects to bigger things in society. Like, we live in a world that's all about productivity and achievement, but what about things like compassion and resilience? Where do those fit in?
Yeah, you're right. We put so much emphasis on getting good grades and climbing the career ladder. But what about the everyday heroes who keep things running? The ones who don't always get the recognition they deserve.
Exactly. Those skills are not just valuable, they're essential. They're the foundation of everything. And yet we take them for granted. We assume someone else will always be there to do the things we don't know how to do.
It makes you wonder what would happen if we changed our perspective. Like instead of asking, what can this person do for me? What if we asked, what can I learn from this person? Or how can we help each other grow?
Imagine that. A world where we celebrate the boatman's skills just as much as the businessman's success. Where we value everyone's contributions no matter who they are or what they do. What if instead of a hierarchy we have this web of interconnectedness, where we all recognize that we depend on each other?
That sounds amazing. That's the kind of world I want to live in. And I think this story shows us how to get there. It starts with respect and recognizing the value in everyone we meet, being open to learning from anyone, understanding that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thought. What skills do you have that you might take for granted? What knowledge do you have that could be helpful to someone else? And how can you better appreciate the different skills and knowledge that exist in your own community?
Those are great questions to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.